Welcome, everyone. My name is Adi Portugues. I'm the head of the Ben-Gurion Archives. I welcome you to the Mintzberg building. This is where the Ben-Gurion Research Institute for the Study of Israel and Zionism stays, and the Ben-Gurion Archives. When you think about archive of founding father of the State of Israel and a research institute, you might think of a presidential library. And this is what we are. We have two branches for the building. The northern wing is where the research and teaching is being done, and the southern wing where the archive is.
The field of Israel studies, which is a growing and expanding field, has many fascinating aspects in it. To me, there are two that are particularly gripping. The first is the very idea of the creation of a Jewish state. When the idea was first broached in 1896 in Theodor Herzl's pamphlet, The State of the Jews, many of the people surrounding Herzl thought he had basically lost it. The idea seemed preposterous and crazy. As Herzl himself predicted in his diary, that preposterous and crazy idea became a very concrete historical reality within a short historical time span. In my own work, there's another question, however, which is even more fascinating to me, and perhaps an even more preposterous idea, and that is the idea that the Hebrew language could become a spoken language, a colloquial, and the basis for Hebrew culture, which is today the foundation of Israeli culture. One of the people most identified with both of these processes is, of course, David Ben-Gurion. He's most identified, perhaps, with that moment on May 14th of 1948 when he declared statehood of the young state of Israel, but he was no less crucial in being at the forefront of advancing Hebrew culture and having Hebrew become established as the basis for Israeli culture. So the fact that our institute and our university are named for him as we study these phenomena and these historical processes is more than appropriate.
Ben-Gurion wrote a diary from 1915 until 1971, almost an entry per day. This particular notebook is the notebook of the War of Independence. Begins on March 12 and ends up, you might be surprised, on May 14th, the day of the Declaration of Independence. Just to give you a hint about Ben-Gurion himself, he used to number every single page in his diary, and at the end, he used to fill an index of his own notebooks. The last day in this particular notebook ends up with the following words. At 1 p.m., the Provisional State Council meeting, we ratified the Declaration of Independence. In 4 p.m., the Declaration of Independence. There's a lot of joy and happiness in the country, and again, I am as a mourner as I was on November 29. Ben-Gurion is mourning because he knows what we are heading to, and this is the War of Independence. Another interesting letter that we have, a letter that David Ben-Gurion wrote to Rose Halperin, the leader of Hadassah Women. Ben-Gurion truly believed that in order to make the State of Israel prosper, we need to get the assistance of the Jewish world. So he writes her in Hebrew and he says, America was built by pioneers. Israel too will be built solely by bold and innovative pioneers. We need your pioneers. We need your experts. We need your scholars in order to come to the State of Israel and help us to build the country, to help us to make the State of Israel flourish.
So as you can see, we are in the seminar room at the Ben-Gurion Research Institute for the Study of Israel and Zionism. Right now there's a class here that is a part of the Woodman-Scheller International Master's Program, which is one of the important, almost flagships, I would say, of the Institute's work. We work on a number of different fronts in the Institute. Before I say a few words about the Institute itself, I want to contextualize it and point to the fact that in an academic world, in which the humanities and social sciences have in the past few years been shrinking and are in crisis, the field of Israel studies has actually been expanding. The Woodman-Scheller International Master's Program brings students from across the globe, from many, many different countries, who come together to study about Israeli society, Israeli history, Israeli culture, Israeli politics, and obtain a master's degree.
When I was looking up documents on Ben-Gurion's idea of using nuclear energy to make the desert bloom, and he's talking about nuclear energy. This is before the first nuclear reactor was designed for energy purposes. The world only knew of nuclear weapons, of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and he's not a science graduate. So he has the imagination to say, we can harness this, and the only way we're going to have enough water desalinated to make a desert bloom is through nuclear energy. Now this is spectacular. I mean, that kind of foresight just really gives me an insight into what kind of leadership Israel had, what kind of person Ben-Gurion himself was.
Well, I read a little bit about the Ben-Gurion before I came here, and our Ben-Gurion archives has Ben-Gurion's personal diary. We had one premise that everyone is Jewish, but everyone is from different place with different customs and languages and traditions. So how Israel observed them and make one entity as Israeli. So I thought that Israel would be a good case studies to learn about the observation and integration.
Throughout the years, many people wanted to come to the archive to know, to read, to figure out who Ben-Gurion was. Now, Ben-Gurion is not only the Prime Minister of the State of Israel, he is the founding father of the State of Israel. Then we came up with the idea of let's start and build an exhibition hall that will enable everyone to come over to read Ben-Gurion, to know much about Ben-Gurion, and I'm going to take you through some of the documents that we have here in the exhibition hall. People cannot go down into the archive and touch the primary sources of Ben-Gurion. So for that purpose, the exhibition hall is crucial, very important, and it enables as many people from all around the world, and Israel as well, to come and know who Ben-Gurion was. They get to know and get to understand better who Ben-Gurion was, and moreover, what the State of Israel is. When you think about Ben-Gurion archive, it's not a big archive. It's about 100 meters of shelving, which means 100,000 of documents. Out of these hundreds of thousands of documents, we needed to choose only few. Then we came up with around 60 topics, around 150 documents total here in this exhibit hall. First part in the exhibition hall is the timeline of the life of David Ben-Gurion. David Ben-Gurion was born in 1886. Our first station will be in 1905, when he first consult with his friend about when should I make an aliyah to the land of Israel. And it keeps on going in 10 stations. Each station is a document from the archive, of course, and we get to 1967. David Ben-Gurion passed away in December 1973. I'm going to take you to one of the documents here in the timeline. In 1956, David Ben-Gurion published an article in the government yearbook, and the topic is southwards. That was his vision about the Negev is the focal point of the newborn state of Israel. This is where all our future is lying in. Here are some citations from the document. In the south and in the Negev, the cradle of our nation stood. These are the weakest points and the strongest points of the state of Israel. Israel must go southwards in order to exist. Water and power, these are the two things that we are lacking in our country, in the north and especially in the south. One of the vast, interesting collections that we hold in the archive is the collection of correspondence. Letters that have been sent from Ben-Gurion to others, been sent from others to Ben-Gurion. And one of these fascinating letters is the letter of status quo. Just right before the UNGA resolution was taking place here in June 1947, a letter was sent by Ben-Gurion and two other prominent Zionist leaders. The idea was to get the acceptance of all the groups in the Jewish world to declare statehood. Now, this letter was sent to Agudat Israel, the ultra-Orthodox party, in order to make sure that we agree about certain ground when it comes to the Jewish state, which means that the state that will be established contains Jews, Christians, Muslims, other religions, secular Jews, religious Jews. All of these groups should live together. Ben-Gurion had two kinds of diaries. He had the notebook that he used to write on a daily basis, and he also had a pocket journal. This is his pocket journal from November 29, 1947. the UNGA resolution. He wakes up in the middle of the night, take off his pocket journal and write as follows. It's in Hebrew. The decision has been made. 33, 13 and 10. 33 for, obviously, 13 against and 10 abstained. And here he's giving his shopping list, his to-do list, government, name, capital city, budget, police, broadcast, military, services, bureaucracy, constitution, jurisprudence, ports, airports, districts, monetary, currency, and anthem. And then he goes back to sleep. A couple of years ago, we digitized all the documents in the archives and uploaded them to the website. Thanks to the generosity of David and Jenna Pollack Foundation, we created a new fascinating website. Just Google Ben Gurion Archives, get inside, and you might find your relatives there.